Today on the Chad Slagle Show, coaching you to and through retirement.
We are going to discuss the evolution of investing and why you have to evolve and change to be successful in today's retirement.
And on our Coach's Corner, we're going to discuss how fees are playing a large role in the demise of mutual funds.
And on our Chalk Talk segment today, we're going to show you the difference between index funds and mutual funds and which one may be better for you and your portfolio.
So sit back, relax, and learn. The Chad Slagle Show starts now.
I'm Chad Slagle. I believe financial planning is about educating people and empowering them to make better decisions with their hard-earned dollars. Coaching gives me satisfaction from watching a player succeed and get better. You need an experienced team around you. The best coaches have great assistant coaches. I have brought a lot of the techniques and structure I learned from playing and coaching football and applied them to the world of investing. My goal now is to coach as many individuals and families as I can on how to get successfully to and through retirement.
Welcome in, everyone, to the Chad Slagle Show, coaching you to and through retirement. I'm Wendy Erickson here with the coach, Chad Slagle. Today on the Clipboard segment, we're going to discuss the evolution of investing and why you have to evolve and change to be successful in today's retirement.
That's right, Wendy. You know, when I think back to my childhood, I remember my brother, who is 4 or 5 years older than me, and in his room, he had these huge speakers that were probably 3-4 feet tall, and in between those speakers was a all-in-one, a record player and 8-track player. And I remember how cool that looked and sounded, and I couldn't wait until I got old enough where I could get a stereo system like that. However, 4 or 5 years later, by the time I got to be his age, they were no longer available. Now what you had was a large cassette player with speakers on each side that you could hold on your shoulder and walk around and listen to. And now, all we have is a little speaker that you could basically fit in your hand that picks up music from other places like your iPhone, Android via the Bluetooth, and it sounds better and louder than those 3 or 4 foot speakers that my brother had back probably in the 70s and early 80s. And it's always fun to reminisce back to those times, but the point here is times are changing. Whether it be a stereo and speaker systems, TVs, or your investments, you have to be willing to change and stay up with the times. And that's what we want to talk about today on the show. And one of the main investment vehicles we have become dependent on in the past 20 years is the mutual fund, which is basically a basket of stocks. Mutual funds changed investing. They made it possible for mainstream, non-wealthy investors to access the markets with broad diversification, professional management, and safety of a regulated fund. And they've long been the basis for most of the retirement plans of millions of Americans that are out there today. However, times are changing. Some of you may think they are great, and they can be, and they have been good vehicles to get you to this point where you are retired or can even think about retiring. However, there are better options out there today that will benefit you more than mutual funds for a few reasons. And that's what we want to discuss and talk about today. And we'll talk about the slow demise of mutual funds and the other types of investments that are out there today that will better fit you and your retirement goals going forward in this ever-changing economy that we have now.
Talk about change. I was just talking to my daughter the other day about pay telephones. Remember the pay telephones in the phone booths? And I used to have to call my mom from a pay telephone from the mall to get a ride home. Or you didn't have change with you, so you had to get a hold of the operator and you'd make a collect call, but that was the signal to say, come pick me up. I don't know. I just know that our kids today have it easy because they have the music and they have their phone in their hands at all times.
Everything's right there in your hand, and things have changed. And actually, I was talking to my wife last week. I actually went to a department store. I went to Nordstrom's to do some shopping. And I go shopping maybe once a year if I'm lucky. And I walk in there, and I was amazed that they really didn't have much. And I come home and I said, you know, I cannot believe the last time I was in there, they had so many clothes, so many different options. She goes, that's why people today, what do?
Shop online.
We now go online and we shop. So things are changing. And that's what we want to talk about today. Things are changing, times are changing, and you have to be willing to make changes or you are going to get left behind, especially when we talk about investing your hard-earned dollars. And that's what we want to talk about. We want to talk about mutual funds, index funds, and really how you should be investing and allocating your money as you get closer to retirement or even if you're already retired now.
I just know I do not want to get left behind when it comes to my hard-earned money.
Anymore things are fast-paced, they're changing all the time, and no matter what it is, you have to be willing to stay with the times and try to be ahead of the change if you can.
All right, we need to learn how to do that today, and you're going to help us. When we return on the Coach's Corner, we're going to discuss how fees are playing a large role in the demise of mutual funds. We'll be right back.
The number one concern of retirees today is outliving their hard-earned dollars. It is more important now than ever to educate and empower yourself to make better decisions with your money that it has taken you 30 to 40 years to accumulate. How do you do this? By using our financial GPS, our guided planning system. This is a 4-step process to help get you successfully to and through retirement. The first step in this process is to create clarity. Here we will help identify your goals as well as your concerns and identify what you want to accomplish in retirement. The second step, we will analyze the risk you're taking with your current portfolio, and this step will also identify exactly what you are paying in fees. In the third step, we will evaluate and assess your current plan and help identify the gap between the missing pieces. And in the fourth and final step, this is where we will work together to implement a plan of action to accomplish your retirement goals. And this process can take place at any one of our convenient locations in Missouri, at our Creve Coeur and Sunset Hills offices, or in Illinois at our Edwardsville, Springfield, and Jacksonville locations. So call now to get set up on the right path on your journey through retirement.
Are you retired or wanting to know if you can retire in the next 3 to 5 years? Are you concerned about the new Secure Act, the biggest change in the retirement system in the past 13 years? If so, then this class is designed for you. Reserve your seat now for Empower University, an educational course for pre-retirees and retirees, hosted by Chad Slagle and his team of investment advisors. Call 844-608-1872.
Welcome back into the Chad Slagle Show, coaching you to and through retirement. We are back with the coach, Chad Slagle, and his colleague, Chad Tobin. And today, on the Coach's Corner, we're going to discuss how fees are playing a large role in the demise of mutual funds.
You know, although mutual funds have been a crucial piece for retirement plans in millions of Americans, many industry observers are arguing that mutual funds' best days, of course, are behind them. They are now considered what we call bleeding assets in favor of exchange-traded funds and separately managed accounts. And the fees and incentives that are baked into mutual funds are good for asset managers, but bad for us, the investors, or for our clients. Because they are cheaper, less conflicted alternatives that have come to the market. And also, even though some of the mutual funds may not have as high a fees as the average, it's important for you to understand the fees that you are likely paying on these funds. And many of them, of course, as we mentioned earlier, can be hidden. So we want to help show you those fees today and how much you might actually be paying on those accounts.
Well, and I think, Chad, I mean, we're not here to say all the mutual funds out there are bad, but I think it's very important for your hard-earned dollars, you know, if there's a better alternative, lower cost, or things you need to know, that's what we're trying to kind of address to you here today.
And it's a lot like buying an automobile. You know, 20, 30 years ago, there was you'd go to buy an automobile, and there would be a list on the window of the car, and you'd pay that for the car. However, none of us pay sticker price for an automobile today. What we want to do is we want to pay as close to as we can to that invoice price or that wholesale price, as opposed to paying that sticker or that retail price. And really, it's the same thing when it comes to your investing. You can pay retail or sticker price for your mutual funds and your investments, or you can get those exact same investments, those exact same vehicles that do the same thing for invoice at wholesale cost. And that's what we want to talk about today. And really, as you mentioned, Chad, it's about educating yourself on what's right and what's right and wrong for you.
Well, I don't like the sound of hidden fees, so let's just jump in and discuss.
So the first one, of course, are basically what we call fees. There's 3 main fees when it comes to mutual funds. And the first one we want to talk about right now are what is called loads. Most of you, when you take a look at your mutual fund statement this weekend, you're either going to have an A, a B, or a C behind the mutual fund. You either have an A share, a B share, or a C share. So what that means is if you have an A share, you are charged a load right up front when you put money into that account. On average, of 5.75%. So that means when you invest money in that account, every time you put money into that account, they take that load on average of 5.75% right off the top. And again, that average is according to Morningstar. And another load, if you don't have an A share, you may have a B or a C share. So what that means is you're not charged that load up front. But if you take that money out in the first 6 to 8 years, Chad, you're charged that load on the backside.
Yeah, and I think when we talk about, loads, what we see is most people don't even know that they already paid these loads or they even had these loads. So, a lot of times people will say, well, I don't see any kind of fees, on my statement. And as we go through and we see an A, a B, or a C behind those, there's a reason that the load was already paid, or if they are adding money, it's being taken out every time they put money in.
And where can you find these? Of course, we all get that prospectus that when you invest in a vehicle like a mutual fund, they send that to you. But be honest, how many of us actually read those prospectuses cover to cover, page for page, word for word? Most of us don't, but that's where that information is. So understand what kind of share you have, A, B, or C, and if you're charging an upfront load or a back-end load. Now understand that exact same mutual fund you can get with what's called a Class F share. No load to get in or no load to get out. So again, the retailer sticker price versus the invoice or wholesale price of your accounts.
All right, I think a lot of us are going to be checking on loads, right?
Yes.
So what is the next type of fee?
The next one is what's called a fund expense, exactly what it sounds like, a mutual fund expense. Fund expenses are also known as the expense ratio in the fund's annual operating expense expressed as a percentage of assets. Unlike the loads, this cost applies to all mutual funds. Doesn't matter if it's an A, B, C, or an F. U.S. stock funds pay an average, according to Morningstar, of 1.31% of assets each year to the portfolio manager and for other operating expenses. So again, it doesn't matter if the market goes up or goes down, you're paying that 1.3% every single year, whether you make money or whether you lose money.
Well, and if you think about it, over a 20, 30-year period, when you're working and you're saving and these amount of fees are going out for a 30-year period, if you could reduce some of that's huge of the amount of money that stays in your account. So, these add up over that long a period of time.
All right, and what's the final type of fee?
The third type of fee is what's called turnover ratio, and exactly what it sounds like. So the turnover ratio of a mutual fund is a measurement that expresses the percentage of particular funds holding that have been replaced or turned over during the previous year. And really, it's very simple. So you have 250 or 500 stocks that make up a mutual fund. So what turnover ratio is how often within a 1 year period that money manager is taking those 205 or 500 stocks, selling them, and buying all new ones. In other words, they're turning the portfolio over. Now, anytime you buy or sell a stock, you have what's called trading desk costs or fees. Well, guess who those trading desk costs or fees are passed on to? Us, those of us that own shares of these mutual funds. So on average, you're looking at 1.44% you could be charged each and every year in turnover ratio. So that's very important to understand when you look at those accounts. And again, it's something it's in the prospectus, but a lot of people have no idea, Chad, on these fees.
Well, we just talked about a load, possibly 5+% to get in, an expense ratio of maybe 1.3, and now a turnover ratio on average of 1.4. When you add those up, that's a pretty big fee coming out each and every year, whether you make money or whether you lose money.
Those fees can add up. Thanks for the information. To download our free white paper today about your retirement income planning checklist, visit slagelefinancial.com/empoweryou. And coming up on Chalk Talk, we're going to show you the difference between index funds and mutual funds and which one may be better for you and your portfolio. Stay with us.
Let's go.
He's such an involved dad. He's always telling the kids stories. I remember when so-and-so said I couldn't do this or I didn't make this team. That's what drives him. In our family, we always tell our kids to stick up for each other, stand behind one another. He feels it's his role to provide, keep us safe, and to make sure that the kids are taken care of. A lot of Chad's clients have the same traditional values, and he bonds with them. Each family has a different set of circumstances, and each family is unique and different. The common thread between all of Chad's clients is that they want the best for their family, just as he would our own family.
Welcome back into the Chad Slagle Show, coaching you to and through retirement. So we just discussed how fees are playing a large role in the demise of mutual funds. Now we want to show you the difference between index funds and mutual funds and which one may be better for you and your portfolio.
Before we jump into the differences between index funds and mutual funds, I want to give you a simple definition of an index fund. An index fund is actually a type of mutual fund with a portfolio constructed to match or track the components of a financial market index, such as the Standard & Poor's 500 index, also known as the S&P 500. An index mutual fund is said to provide broad market exposure, low operating expenses, and low portfolio turnover. On this segment today, we're going to briefly talk about ETFs at the end, also known as exchange-traded funds. And these are similar to index funds because they both represent professionally managed collection or basket of individual stocks or bonds. They both typically carry lower fees, as we mentioned earlier, than the mutual funds because they track an index and are passively managed, which we'll get into in a second. And they also have their differences, like we talked about before, how you buy and sell the particular funds. But for today's sake, we're going to compare them to mutual funds so that you understand the differences.
Well, and I think the key here, when we talk about index funds or we talk about ETFs, the key is they usually have a lot lower cost than the mutual funds. And as we're going to see, the numbers show that they usually outperform these mutual funds as well.
And we talk about costs. I mean, we're talking 1 to 2% a year, as Chad mentioned, on a $500,000, million, $2 million retirement account over a 20-year period. That's a lot of money that you would have in your account for you and your family, and not these mutual fund companies.
Sounds good to me. So you're saying the very first difference we're going to mention between index funds and mutual funds is management style.
Yes, management style. Index funds have a passive management style, while mutual funds have an active management. Managing a mutual fund requires making daily, sometimes hourly, investment decisions. A fund manager or management team makes all of the investment decisions. For index funds, there's no need for active human oversight to determine which investments to buy and sell, since these are automated to track an index.
According to the S&P Dow Indices data, for 15 years ending in December of 2016, more than 90% of U.S. large cap, mid cap, and small cap funds helmed by managers did worse than the S&P 500. And again, that is just an extremely, I didn't even realize that number was that extreme.
So we pay these money managers 1 to 2% to try to beat the index that, again, Chad mentioned 90% of them could not even beat the index. So for those of you that have 401ks or company plans through work, you have about 30, 40 different selections of what you can participate in. Make sure that you're participating in the index funds inside of those 401ks or retirement plans, not the mutual funds. Again, that's 1 to 2% a year. It could save you a loan and fees, and it doesn't matter if you're retired. Just be smart as you build for that retirement.
All right, let's talk about number 2, investment goals.
Number 2, investment goals. A good way to think about index investing. If you can't beat them, join them. That's essentially what index investors are doing. An index fund's sole investment objective is to mirror the performance of the underlying benchmark index, which the S&P 500 zigs or zags, so does an S&P 500 index mutual fund. A mutual fund that is typically managed has an objective to outperform market averages to earn higher returns by having experts strategically pick investments. In other words, again, as we just mentioned, we're paying these money managers to try to beat the index. And 90% of the time, they can't even outperform it. So it's really a lot of money that you're wasting. Just invest directly into those index funds.
It sounds pretty simple because at the end of the day, the mutual funds, seem to be underperforming most of the time.
All right, and number 3, your third point when we're talking about the difference is cost.
We've kind of been hitting on cost all the way through. So cost, the biggest difference to investors is the cost. As you can imagine, it costs more to have people running the show. There are investment managers' salaries, bonuses, employee benefits, kickbacks, etc. The shareholders pay these costs in what's known as the fund expense ratio. Also, the loads and the turnover. Not to mention, they're usually, as we mentioned earlier, they're usually outperformed by the index funds and the ETFs. And one person that we talk about all the time, Chad, is kind of the godfather of the index funds was John Bogle, or Jack Bogle, who passed away about a year ago. And it's all about index vesting, and that's what his company Vanguard talks about, which is so important today, especially with the technology and everything we have today. You want to make sure that you're saving money where you can, putting more money in your pocket, less in the company's pocket, and that's one way to do it.
Well, you mentioned the story about your brother and kind of that, you know, the speaker system. And I bet if you went to buy that same speaker system today, it would be a fraction of the cost of what he paid for it. And, you know, today we're in the 21st century, so these ETFs are kind of that same, the newer version of the mutual funds.
Yeah, let's expand on the ETF.
So ETFs are exchange-traded funds. According to ETF.com, ETF assets are to surpass mutual funds in 2024. So this is like what we're talking about here, evolution and how things are changing. If this trend continues, so as you can see, the demise of mutual funds is coming. If you have money in the market, you want to be smart about it. Save money, get the gains where you can, because you're going to be better off and your family's going to be better off down the road. And again, if you're 5 to 10 years from retiring, as we keep talking about, that's a lot more money in your pocket. So just be smarter, educate yourself, and know what's out there and what's available to you.
Don't put all of your money in one place. We're going to talk here upcoming, you know, as you get into the retirement planning, there's so much more than just the mutual fund, the ETF, the index funds out there to educate yourself on.
And once again, to download our free white paper today about your retirement income planning checklist, visit slagelefinancial.com/empoweryou. As they mentioned, when we come back on our strategy play, the Chads are going to show you how to use the 21st century investing approach in your retirement.
The #1 concern of retirees today is outliving their hard-earned dollars. It is more important now than ever to educate and empower yourself to make better decisions with your money that it has taken you 30 to 40 years to accumulate. How do you do this? By using our Financial GPS, our guided planning system. This is a 4-step process to help get you successfully to and through retirement. The first step in this process is to create clarity. Here we will help identify your goals as well as your concerns and identify what you want to accomplish in retirement. The second step, we will analyze the risk you're taking with your current portfolio, and this step will also identify exactly what you are paying in fees. In the third step, we will evaluate and assess your current plan and help identify the gap between the missing pieces. And in the fourth and final step, this is where we will work together to implement a plan of action to accomplish your retirement goals. And this process can take place at any one of our convenient locations in Missouri, at our Creve Coeur and Sunset Hills offices, or in Illinois at our Edwardsville, Springfield, and Jacksonville locations. So call now to get set up on the right path on your journey through retirement.
Are you retired or wanting to know if you can retire in the next 3 to 5 years? Are you concerned about the new Secure Act, the biggest change in the retirement system in the past 13 years? If so, then this class is designed for you. Reserve your seat now for Empower University, an educational course for pre-retirees and retirees, hosted by Chad Slagle and his team of investment advisors. Call 844-608-1872.
Welcome back to the Chad Slagle Show, coaching you to and through retirement. On this week's strategy play, we're going to show you how you should be graduating into retirement by using what we call a 21st century investing approach. And what we talk about that is, you know, if you've been for the past 20, 30, 40 years, you've been trying to build up your 401k and your retirement accounts, and a lot of times you've been doing that through sub-accounts, which are mutual funds, which is what we've been talking about today. And these vehicles are good. You needed those vehicles to get you to the point where you can even think about retiring. The problem is, though, today, folks, if you continue to invest in the same vehicles that got you to retirement, once you retire, those could be the same vehicles that blow you up in retirement.
Well, and as we know, when we're working, you know, we want our money to grow, but we're not sure how much it has grown. We've been adding so much. A lot of times we're not sure the fees we've been paying for the last 20, 30 years, and we have no idea the amount of risk we're currently taking. So now, graduating into retirement, we need to focus on knowing things and educating ourselves.
A lot of us, Chad, start looking at that as we get closer to retirement. Now it's time. We put it off, put it off, put it off. We're 6 months away from retiring. We're a year away from retiring, or we just retired. Now it's start to look at those accounts. So what you want to do is we talk about your retirement years. When you do start thinking about retirement, what you want to do is after you turn 59 and a half, even if you're still working, you want to take your 401k and you want to roll it over to an IRA. And the reason you want to do that is, number one, it puts you in control of your money. Then what you're going to do is you're going to split that money into 3 three different buckets: the secure bucket, the growth bucket, and the extra bucket. And the bucket we're talking about today, Chad, is that growth bucket.
You mentioned taking control. Now all of a sudden, when you're going to put money, your hard-earned dollars, in the stock market and take on some risk, you got to know the cost. You got to know what your goals are for income, maybe dividends, individual equities. Have some of that risk that you're comfortable with taking, and know that liquidity of that growth bucket.
You know, it's nice to make that 20 to 30% on your monies, but you want to make sure it's about holding on to your money, making that 6 to 10%, and not get blown up when the market goes down. Do you know how much you're paying in fees for probably your largest asset? Do you need help building a 21st century investing approach for your retirement? If so, we encourage you to give us a call today, and that's this week's Strategy Play.
If you have any questions about today's show, or if you'd like for us to discuss a new topic, email us at askchad@slagelfinancial.com to have your questions answered on the show. And we'll be right back with some of the key takeaways from today.
Chad Slagle and join.
I'll be with you guys in just a few minutes.
When it comes to your health, your life, your family, your home, and your hard-earned dollars, of course you want to make sure you're working with that sharp, energetic, knowledgeable individual that is always looking out for your best interest.
Such short notice, appreciate it. Thanks.
It's time to get your financial house in order.
This is the new age of retirement planning. In the Wall Street world, that's what they talk about. You got to have back into the Chad Slagle Show, coaching you to and through retirement.
We are Slagle Financial. Call now, 888-294-9248.
Welcome back once again to the Chad Slagle Show, coaching you to and through retirement. A lot of great information today. What would you say are the key takeaways, Chad?
Number one, understand the evolution of investing and what vehicles may be best for you at this stage of retirement. And know the difference between index funds, mutual funds, and the other vehicles out there that are set up to get you successfully to and through retirement. Number three, understand the difference between resale versus wholesale investing, sticker price versus invoice price.
And don't forget to download our free white paper about your retirement income planning checklist. Visit slagelfinancial.com/empoweryou. And Slagle Financial and their team of advisors have educational events coming up in your area to make sure you are prepared for today's retirement. For more information and to sign up for one of these events, call 888-294-9248 or visit chadslagleshow.com.
Remember, folks, success is waking up in the morning, whoever you are, wherever you are, no matter how old or young you are, and bounding out of bed because there's something out there that you love to do, that you believe in, that you're good at, and you can hardly wait to get at it again today. At Slagle Financial, realize that this is bigger than our team. It's about educating you, the public, and our wonderful clients, and empowering you to make better decisions with your hard-earned dollars. For my colleague, Chad Tobin, my co-host, Wendy Erickson, this is the coach, Chad Slagle. Thank you very much for joining us. We look forward to visiting with each and every one of you next week.